Hello everyone, welcome back to Leanne's Crafty Cupboard. Okay, this centre I'm just going to do French knots. So I've shown you how to do that, so I'll move on. Let's do these. Ribbon stitch. Okay, so ribbon stitch has to be one of the easiest, most effective, quickest ways to get some petals of a flower. So I'm using 4mm ribbon, and you just do a stitch but stab into the end of the ribbon, and be careful not to pull it really tight, because if you pull it tight you're just going to pull it through. So you just come up like you do for a normal stitch, lay it down in the right position, and then, as I mentioned, stab the end of the ribbon. Don't pull it too tight. What you do want to be careful of when you're working with ribbon is that you don't pierce the ribbon on the back, because then when you bring your needle through, you're likely to pull the work that you've already done tight and ruining it. So you need to work loosely. Don't have a firm grip with ribbon. Work gently, gently. So we could have done the daisies with ribbons in this way, done all the petals of the daisy, but I wanted to reserve it for these sort of flowers that look a bit bell-shaped. And you'll notice that with the yellow ribbon, I'm just covering the yellow parts of the flower and leaving those sort of darker peachy pink sections exposed to sort of show the shadows of the flower. I'm working with a pretend silk ribbon today. I think it's called silk-like or silken ribbon or something like that. But it's a man-made fibre. And of course, in slow stitching, there's no rules. You can use any ribbons that you have at hand. It's just these sort of ribbons that mimic the silk ones. They tend to be nice and fine and thin, and so, are easy to work with. Happy with that. Now, on the back, you can actually just cut and couch down with another thread the tail, but I'm a knotter. I just find it very hard to break the knotting habit. Lovely, I'm happy with that. Time for green. Okay, so remember our fly stitch from before? I'm going to do that around the petals. So come up at the side of the petal of the flower, and then over the other side, come up at the base and catch that thread down in a U shape. Take a little stitch. It forms like a letter Y. I'm just going to do a couple of little extra stitches, straight stitches across here to look like the stamens. Is it the stamens? I don't know. My brain's not working well. The green bit at the bottom, the sepal, isn't it? Okay. And then over onto the other flower, same thing. A fly stitch. couple of straight stitches. I think one's enough. And once again some stem stitch to do the stems. Lazy daisy stitch now for the leaves, just like we did the pink petals, remember? Feels so good to be able to stitch again. Suffered a temporary nerve problem in my hand after the surgery, and it's starting to resolve, so I'm regaining feeling. I was a bit worried when I woke up and it was my right hand. I'm like, no, that's my stitching hand. It's all good, getting better. Okay, so the background treatment, when you do a little seed stitch, this is seed stitch, it's just a little stitch going every which way. It tends to sort of help flatten the background together and the front elements to pop up. And of course it joins the two fabrics together really well. So when I started I used 2 threads, 2 strands, and then next to it I've done single, so you can see the difference in the effect. Generally when things are in the background we want them to have a thinner thread weight than the ones in the foreground. That will just help with the perspective. Things that are thinner, things look thinner further away. So it's just simple stitches and you just make them go every which way. This is very easy treatment. Especially if you're having trouble initially with getting your stitches lined up or the same size. And this is deliberately skew-if and you don't have to worry about it. Just want to be careful that you'll go close to the edge of patterns that are there, flowers, leaves, etc., but not over them. So I actually find this really relaxing. I have to be honest and say that when I'm just straight stitching, canter stitching, running stitch in straight lines, I get a bit bored. You certainly could do that as well though. You could just do a little running stitch in and out in straight lines, or with a water erasable pen draw curved lines and stitch along those. But I really enjoy this higgledy-piggledy stitching. So I'm going to do the entire background, all the blue like that. And you can do different things. So I've used a thread that matches the background. You could, if you want it to be more of a feature, use a thread that is slightly different from the background, lighter, darker, variegated colour. You can do some sections different from others. So for example, you could use a very thicker stitch, you know, here in this section, and bigger stitches, and then do smaller as you get up into the corner. So it's just a lot of fun to play, relax, and see what things look like. You got to keep that childhood mentality of what happens if I do this. Now, what can you do with these squares? Well, there's lots of ideas online from other people that have been taking part in Annie Claxton's little big stitchery swap. Christine of Create and Craft with Christine was putting hers together to create a perpetual calendar. People have been sewing them together in books. My ones I've framed on the wall, the ones I've received, so they're in a square frame, and I think that looks really, really lovely. And what's nice with these actually is that you could rotate that. You could just have, even if you've only got room for one frame, you could just keep switching out the stitcheries. You know, our eye stops seeing things that we see all the time, right? So you can constantly change out your textile art and enjoy that new piece. You could glue this down onto cardstock and make a beautiful hand-stitched greeting card. You could simply keep them in a stack in a lovely box and take them out and look at them. Enjoy the feel of the stitches, the look of them. You could stitch them all together and make a table runner, or you could just stitch them together onto a scroll, you know, and then you just get to unwind the scroll. Scrolls are so much fun. This is the one I did for Roxy's Journal of Stitchery down the garden path in 2023. And I've got a complete playlist on making this. So if you haven't seen it, go have a look. So my little garden gate got rolled up. But yeah, I absolutely loved every part of making this, and I still love regularly getting it down and unrolling it and having a look. Now, I didn't have a scroll, so this is actually round discs that I bought. I can't remember actually, in a craft store or in a hardware store, attached to a cardboard tube in the center, and then I've just used paper and paint to make it look like it's a solid piece. You can use your squares to embellish other pieces of work. So for example, imagine you had a book cover you were making. You could stitch this to another piece of fabric and you've got your embellished book cover. Or this is Jennifer Clouston's Boral inspired sewing caddy. You know, you can stitch your piece of work down on the outside of a little bag. Or a sewing folio. Now I have got a video coming out on this folio that I made as well. So many ideas. But really, what can you do with it is not as important as sitting down and enjoying yourself as you're making this. Okay, so lots of little seed stitches all over the background. Holds the two pieces of fabric together, gives the background a bit of a treatment, helps the patterns pop out on the picture more. So I'm going to stop there because you've got the idea. Let me show you something else. I did more lazy daisy stitches on this flower. So you can see now the three different treatments on the daisies. We've got back stitch, the fly stitch and the lazy daisy. I want to show you actually what you can do when you've done a ribbon stitch. If you want to give your flowers sort of that sort of center stamens coming out, we can do a pistol stitch. And a pistol stitch is a French knot on the end of a stitch. Just a bit tangled. Okay, so instead of when I'm going and doing my French knots straight down in the same area, I'm going to do it a little bit further out on the end of a straight stitch. So you can see I'm going further away. Okay, so this again just adds a little extra detail and dimension. So I'm doing 2 wraps, but not coming straight down near where I started, taking a little stitch away. Still holding the thread taut like we did with French knots. Look at that. Doesn't that look cute? There you go. Goodness, that's a low-flying something. Actually, that looks a bit odd to me to just have 2, so I'm going to go back in and do one more. Oops. One thread went in, not 2. just to give the flower a curve, I'm going to take the center one out just a bit further than the others. That looks better. Rightio, so let's see, what have we got? Oh, let me show you how to do something with the leaves. So I don't want to do all the leaves. If you do all the leaves, again, things don't stand out. So I want to feature that sort of center spray. All right, so once again with leaves, if the leaves stand out well, if they're sort of, you can do a back stitch all the way around like we did with this one. I'm going to just do the sort of center vein treatment using what we did here. So a straight stitch followed by a fly stitch. That's not going to be enough to do anything. So let's get some new thread. So just separating out 2 strands. 2, 2 please. Bit furry on the ends. Righto. So start at the furthest point of the leaf. And we're going to follow that center vein down the middle. So take a stitch. Okay, now there's not much going here because the petal's over the top. So I'm just going to do a tiny stitch, being careful to not get it on the petal. Probably should have done the leaf treatment first. So come out of the edge of the leaf, edge of the leaf, back in to the base of that straight stitch. Okay, now instead of going straight below, because we're going to follow in a line here, I'm just taking a bit of a stitch away. Same thing again, so come up on the edge of the leaf and the edge of the leaf, sort of having to make it up because it's got some petals over it. And again, it's a bit of a straight stitch. So come up the edge of the leaf, go in the edge of the leaf, come up at the base of your straight stitch. Okay, and finish it off there. Okay, so let's do that on some others. This one up here. Straight stitch. Come up at the edge of the leaf. Hold your thumb on the thread. Go in at the other edge of your leaf. Take a little stitch. Okay, now you can see this leaf has got points, so that makes life easy. Go to the point. And then just imagine another one over here because it gets a bit blurry. Coming up on the point. Imagine another point. And in there. All right, now this has got just one more point there untouched so far, so I'm just going to do a straight stitch on that down to the base. Now you can again vary your threads to give a different look, so you could use wools, lighter colour, variegated green. Okay, now here the stems, I'm going to do stem stitch. Stem stitch, I work left to right. So you take a stitch in, but come back halfway. Go in, come back to that hole from before. Go a little further ahead, come back to that hole from before. Okay, I'm going to go in here because that leaf's over the top. And come out. I've lost my thread. Sorry, I had to stop the camera for a little cough. My throat is a bit hoarse after. The tube. Okay, now that's a stem stitch. You can also just do a series of back stitch as well if you want to for the stems. Once again, where the leaf is over the top, I'm going to go under. Good morning, I'm back again. Let's make the 3D flower to go in the bottom corner here. So I just have this little offcut of tulle and I'm going to fold it in half. And you can see this particular piece has got holes all the way through there. So to disguise those, I think I'll do my sort of stitching along there-ish. Okay, now you can use any thread. I'm just going to use what's in the needle here. 2 strands of embroidery thread. Okay, and I'm sort of going to just do a running stitch up the center. Not sure if you can hear in the background, that's just Mr. Cheeky Puss having his drink of water. There we go. Oops, pulled the needle out. How many times do I do that? There we go. That's simple. Little gathered flower. All right, so then we just knot it. Now, any sort of flimsy fabric works to do this. So this is tulle, or you could use organza, chiffon. Cheeky puss. What? Hello. He's an aging boy. He makes funny noises now. Okay, and that can just go down in the corner here. I like the fuller section to show. Now, in terms of what to do for the centre, same as the choices we had before, really. So you can have button in the centre. You could do lots of French knots, beads. I actually quite like this little button. I'm going to use this one. So buttons, like I've sewn all my life, so I've already had a stash, but also I've kept every button that came with clothes. You know how you get spare buttons? And then every time I see buttons in second-hand stores, I bought them, so much so that I have now put myself on a button ban. I'm not allowed to buy any, which is very hard because they're beautiful. It was one of my greatest joys as a kid, sitting and playing with the tin of buttons, sorting them out, organising them. They just looked like little lollies. They were magical. There you go. A nice simple little 3D element on your stitchery. So I hope you enjoyed watching that, and you can take some of the stitches I used and the theory I used and apply it to your piece of floral fabric. So remember, with petals we had a choice of doing back stitch or straight stitch with a fly stitch curved under it, lazy daisy stitches, or a straight stitch in ribbon. So it's very simple when you use ribbon. Just lay the ribbon down and stab in the top of it. We did embellishments here with pistol stitch, which is a French knot on the end of a longer stitch. Our daisy centres, our flower centres, we did French knots and beading. For the leaves, we did the same fly stitch that we did on these petals. This one I didn't do on camera, I don't think. This one is just a stem stitch down the centre of the leaf. Did stem stitch to make the stems, and these are lazy daisy stitches to make the leaves. Okay, now if you watch the square that I made for Kathy, the only variations to this all right, that's something for me to pick up later, were that I had a seam, what do you call it, selvage edge. So I just did some embroidery up at the side of that. And then I also, it wasn't quite a square, so I had just another strip of plainish fabric that I did lazy daisy flowers all over in a nice variegated thread, and a little strip of braid. So I tried to keep it simple today, just in case you're limited on supplies and you've only got some basic things for the moment. But that can look quite nice if you do a little strip of something different and just some embroidery on it. Well, I'll link all the other videos that I mentioned down below, so if you're interested, please go and have a look. Certainly go and check out Annie Claxton's videos about the swap, and I think I also mentioned Christine and how she was turning hers into a calendar. And please, if you've liked watching, give me a like, leave a little comment and say hi, subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you next week. Bye bye. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed spending time at my crafty cupboard, please come back again. I post new videos every Saturday. See you again.